Welcome back to the Iron Insight. This is episode 5. We are joined by Mr. Jesse McCollum today. Start your week off right with the Iron Insight. I'm Bryn Welds.
And I'm Andrew Nichols with Southern Leatherworks.
Mr. Jesse McCollum, how's it going?
Going great, guys. Glad to be here. It's always fun to chat with fellow welders.
Yeah, when's the last podcast you did? Was that 2020 with Jason Becker?
Yeah, probably. God, it's already been 4 years.
Wow, it's been a while,
Yeah,
hasn't it?
been a
Holy
while.
crap.
Yeah, I was on with Becker. We had I think that was like a 2, almost 3 hour conversation we had.
It was
That
long.
was pretty fun. Yeah.
I listened to it all last week. We're going to start off. How old are you?
So I am 37, going to be 38 in July. So not a young pup. I'm starting to get some grays.
What day in July?
17th.
Oh, man, mine's the 16th.
Ah, nice. What's
So-
up, cancers?
When did you first weld?
Oh man, that would have been so. My dad, I guess it really started with him. Like we were always into building performance motorcycles, and he did port and polish work, and that's kind of what I did. I mean, that's if I wanted to hang out with my dad at night, he'd come home from work about 3:30. He was out in the shop by 4, and he was out there till 11 or midnight every night doing port and polish work. So that's where I grew up, was in my dad's shop doing port and polish work. And when I first started hanging out with him out there, I was probably like 6 or 7, didn't have any business touching anything. And by the time I was like 9, 10, 11, I was doing a lot of the port and polish work with him. So he'd do the cutting, and then he'd set up a station for me to do the polishing side of it, since I couldn't really mess anything up. But we were always building like drag banshees or hill climb bikes. Man, we did a bunch of like the little micro midgets, like the 500cc micro midgets. Yep. We built a lot of those motors. And so, we'd always have guys bring us the whole chassis, and then we didn't, find something cracked or broken, or, we'd have to add something to a drag bike. And so he always knew how to weld, and eventually he taught me how to weld. So I started out MIG and stick welding, and then didn't really have a passion for it, this is what I want to do, but I was always interested in it. And so when I got to high school, I took Votech. Of course, you start out with oxy fuel and then go to MIG and stick, and I already knew how to do those, so I flew through those, and I spent basically a year and a half teaching myself how to TIG weld, because our instructor, he was a heavy industrial guy. You want to know, flux core, dual shield, stick weld, anything like that. He was a master, but TIG, especially like thin gauge aluminum, stainless, he had no idea. So he gave me a big old stack of books, and he was like, here you go. Here's all the information that I can give you. You're on your own if you want to learn how to TIG weld. And I thought I was going to come out of there and go to I was really big into bicycles. Like I used to race semi-professionally back in high school. Racked up a whole lot of cross-country mountain bike wins and raced downhill and BMX for a while. But I thought I was going to go weld mountain bikes. That's what I wanted to do. That's why I got into TIG welding. I was like, man, I want to build my own bikes, go work for a manufacturer for a couple years and then learn the industry and then come out and build my own bikes. That never happened, but I stayed with TIG welding. So I got my first job literally the day after I graduated high school. I started at a company called Heatron in Lansing, Kansas, doing like 24 gauge stainless steel TIG welding for kidney dialysis heating elements.
Holy cow.
So that's where that was my first job out of high school. But, and I just kind of evolved from there, then quit welding for a little bit, came back to it a couple years later. I was working at ProCharger for almost 10 years as the lead welder out there. Went and worked at a power plant for a couple years, went back to ProCharger, and then left ProCharger to go work in the aerospace industry for a couple years. Did that for two and a half years, and then went out on my own for 2 years, and here I am at Everlast.
Here we are today.
Yeah,
It's funny.
That's basically my whole career in a minute. That's my whole career.
It's funny that your first job was welding stainless, because I scrolled through your 543 Facebook photos and found one weld that was not aluminum.
He's a big aluminum guy.
Yeah, I keep that in my back pocket. I don't need everybody to know all my secrets, but I can weld stainless just as well as anybody. I just, I don't like it as much.
So some old guy's walking around with Jesse McCollum's, weld near his kidney or something. Is that how that is then?
There's somebody probably getting dialysis on a heating element that I built. It's funny though, because that's what's really fun for me about the trade. Like my brother, he was 6 years younger than me. He really, of course, little brother looks up to big brother. So he's kind of followed in my footsteps quite a bit, and he's a welder, but he went mainly heavy structural, like, he's unlimited thickness, all position certified stick. Dude, I didn't even know how to stick weld until like 3 years ago. Like that was not my thing.
Yeah.
But, we're in the same industry, but we're at polar opposites of what we're doing. I'm working on 24 gauge stainless, and he's welding up a 2-inch thick, train car. It's like, dude, we're both welders, but I don't know anything about his job, and he knows jack shit about my job, but we're both welders. So that's what's pretty cool, and I've done everything from, like the kidney dialysis, heating elements to I've got a satellite on the bottom side of the ISS right now. I've built, record-breaking drag cars. It's like, what other industry do you have? Medical and space in the same career. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a diverse career that you've had so far, that entire pathway. Let's talk about a little bit about where you're at right now. You're in the Everlast school, right?
Yeah, so we're still roughing it in. We're 99% set up, but we've got a location. It's a 2,500 square foot shop here in Kansas City, Missouri, right next to the airport. We've got 13 welding booths set up. Eventually, I'll have like 40 some machines in here. Right now, we've got all TIG. We've got like 7 or 8 MIG machines, but not enough to fill all the booths. But what we're looking to do is it's kind of a multifaceted space for us. So it's my office, which is, there you go.
In all its glory.
Yeah, all its glory. My cubicle made out of welding screens. So up there, I run Everlast technical support. So if somebody has an issue, setup problem, they have a technical question of some kind, that's where your call's coming in is right there. So I do that out of this space. Kind of use it as my personal office. I also use it as my personal workspace. So I've got all my personal tools that didn't get burned up in the fire back here. We've got the 12 welding booths. We also use it as a demo center. So if we do have a customer or a distributor that's close enough that wants to drive in, I've actually got a distributor and a customer coming up next Saturday from Rogers, Arkansas, to check out our new laser unit.
Oh boy!
So they're going to come up and play with the laser for a day, and the customer's super interested in one. So that's it. We've got our YouTube film studio here. I do the live streams from here now. We finally started those back up. So yeah, it's kind of an all-encompassing kind of a Everlast remote headquarters for us.
One thing I've been wondering about is, did the LED light, the Jesse McCollum LED light, make it?
No, it didn't make it.
Oh my gosh.
No, it got, dude, so in my old live streams, you could see that aluminum stand I had everything on. Dude, the fire got so hot it melted that thing down to the ground.
Damn.
Like when I say nothing survived, I mean like literally my welding table. That's about it. I mean, like literally my welding table survived. That was about it.
That was very heartbreaking to see the social media post on. It hurt my heart. It really did.
Dude, there's a couple things from that though. I mean, number one, it couldn't have happened to somebody that was in a better position than I was in. With the support I had from Everlast, the support I had from, Station, Eric at Edge, those two guys, Oleg and Station Eric, helped me out a ton to kind of get through that. Um, the support from the community was pretty overwhelming too. I don't really think about where I stand in the community. I know a lot of people probably know me, but I'm not, 100,000, 300,000 follower account. I think I'm kind of one of those, like, people know me, but I kind of stay in the shadows type of deal. So it was really overwhelming to see. I mean, like, dude, thousands of people were reaching out, like, hey man, sorry to hear what happened. Is there anything I can, do you need tools? What can we do to help you out? And I just, I still kind of think of myself as like I'm just a regular dude, you know. I might. So it was just really, it was overwhelming, and it kind of fucked me up for a little bit because I was like, oh man, like there's a lot more people that are paying attention than I thought,
Yeah. Yeah, you had the GoFundMe, and it seems like every customer I talk to of Everlast, they always name drop you
Yeah.
specifically, like every single customer.
I've definitely, and that was my whole deal with Everlast, going from, me being a customer back in like 2008 till now, like we jokingly call me the CWO, the chief welding officer, but I've kind of over the years become like the face of Everlast. So it's been I still don't really think about it like that. I feel like I'm just a dude that works for them, but I guess I'm kind of the face of Everlast.
But sounds like you've been at Everlast for quite a bit. Then that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
How were you introduced to Everlast?
It's a crazy story. So it was back in like 2008. I was building a 49 Ford shoebox and needed to cut out a bunch of rust and stuff. And I said, man, I kind of want to get a plasma cutter. It'd be a lot faster than using a cutoff wheel. So I bought a Power Plasma 50 off of Craigslist. Like, they had an outside rep that was like, selling stuff on Craigslist, and the guy was based out of Seattle. Like, I fully thought, I was like, dude, I'm getting scammed. But man, what was that guy's name? Richard? Yeah, Richard. He's like an outside sales rep in Seattle. So I beat him up over it. Like, I'm buying it off Craigslist, dude. Like, come on, man. Give me a deal. What can we work out? But I ended up getting that machine. Freaking love that thing. It was still running like a champ up until the fire. And then so I mean, that thing was like shit. Almost 15 years old.
Yeah.
Thing ran like a champ. So when I had kind of started getting more side work requests, it was like 2013. I bought a 185 DV, did a whole bunch of roll cages, and built built everybody's cars out at Pro Charger. Then I got an iMig 200 in 14, and then we had I was just using them for my stuff. I was always on the Everlast Facebook page, helping people out, kind of showing what I did with my equipment, which I guess is, looking back, is kind of how I started on my road to where I'm at now, just helping people out, just showing off what I did, helping people out. Well, then I was at Pro Charger, and we had one of our other big name welders go down.
Can I say it?
Just leave it at that. We had a big name welder go down, and I had made a post about it, like, oh, the wife and I are getting a divorce. I'm going back to the ex, because I was pulling out her old backup. And I got a phone call from a California number, and I was like, fuck is this? Like, click, like, yeah, not answering. So after like 4 or 5 calls, I get a text, hey bro, trying to call you, answer. So he called me back, and it was Oleg.
It was Oleg.
No way. It was Oleg. I didn't even know he owned the company. I was like, who the fuck are you, dude? And so we're talking. He's like, hey man, I saw your post. I know you have some of our equipment. I want to overnight you a 325 EXT to use. I was like, fuck, okay, like that's all right, dude. He's like, yeah, while your other welder's down, use this one if you like it. We'll work something out. If you don't like it, there's a prepaid shipping label. Ship it back. No harm, no foul. And here I am 6 years later. I love that 325. It was I lost it in the fire. That was my baby, man. I still Still kind of heartbroken about losing that thing. That was a lot of sentimental value there. But yeah, so then I started using that thing. Obviously posted up a ton with it, and it's just snowballed more and more. You know, as I posted up more, I had more people ask me questions. Next thing you know, I'm the lead affiliate sales for like 3 years in a row for Everlast, and started learning more and more about the equipment. Something new would come out, they'd have me test it. I'd give my input. Those changes, I guess, they liked them and they worked. And man, it's been a fucking rocket ship for the last 6 years. It's been a crazy ride, man. Like, bro, I still like. There's times when I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is all mine, like, because of Everlast, and I have to pinch myself, like, dude, is this like you were just the dude welding in a dark corner of Pro Charger 6 years ago, and you're basically second in command at a, we'll call it like the fourth largest, welding supplier in the U.S. So it's been a rocket ship of a ride.
The way that you interpreted his text, hey bro, trying to call you, like that sounds like the exact way.
You know Oleg, dude. That's bro.
Oh, bro. That is exactly.
If you know Oleg, that's him.
That's fucking
I'll say I had a funny California call come through when I bought my my 275 Lightning. I bought it, and then I bought the intercooler to go with it because I was doing a lot of heavy duty MIG, and I just wanted to get a water cooled torch. Well, I bought the wrong water cooler, and so a California number called me, and I did the same thing. I ain't answering that. Click.
Yeah.
Second number. Click. And then they emailed me, hey, we've been trying to reach you. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I picked up the next time they called, and the nice lady was like, hey, we see you bought the wrong one. Do you want to actually change this so you have the right one? And I was like, oh, yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, California number just got blocked immediately.
Yeah, especially like being in Missouri, I'm like, yeah, I'm not answering California.
Yep,
there's
shot.
Nothing I need out of there.
Yeah. So, how long have you been full time with Everlast?
Oh man, so technically full time since May of last year. So what happened was we had a big. It's the AIWD, the American Independent Welding Distributors Conference out in San Diego. So Everlast was scheduled to go out there, and I was working part-time for Everlast, kind of doing like, the social media stuff and taking some sales calls, like 4 or 5 sales calls a day, just kind of helping out with technical questions for sales. So I knew a lot about the equipment. I knew, kind of forecasting where we were going as far as new machines, how the company's doing, like I was on the inside a little bit. But then the sales director had a heart attack like 3 days before the show, so he couldn't fly out there. So I got called up to go out there and represent Everlast for all these distributors. So I had to make a couple I'd never done like public speaking before. I think the live stream definitely helped out, but I haven't been like in front of a couple hundred people, like representing a company, trying to convince them to buy our stuff. And so went out there. Somehow I didn't stumble all over myself. We got voted into this distributors group. And the next week, Oleg called me up. He's like, hey, dude, you killed it. Let's bring you on full time. And that was it was wild, dude.
That's crazy.
It's been like a rocket ship, man. I got to like pinch myself. Like I didn't think 6 years ago, hell, 2 years ago, I didn't think I'd be doing this.
Yeah. So you had a customer's vehicle in the shop, right?
Yeah.
What happened? How did that go? Did the insurance pay him out?
Oh no.
Oh man. Of course they didn't.
Yeah. So that was a pretty good kick in the nuts. So really good buddy of mine. His name's Justin Tanner. We're building a 71 C10 that was going to be like a full time attack truck. So it was 71 cab, but it was a carbon fiber, like one-off carbon fiber bed, carbon fiber front clip. Just top of the line parts, front to back. Fortunately, it didn't have the carbon on it or the billet Subaru block because it's Subaru drivetrain all-wheel drive. But being a project, truck and like a race truck. He didn't have insurance on it. I had insurance for my business, but it was liability outside of the shop. And so my insurance didn't cover it. My homeowners didn't cover it because it wasn't mine. And then his insurance, obviously, he didn't have insurance on it. So we came to a gentleman's agreement that the truck was worth about $40,000. And so we split the cost of it.
Oh,
so I wrote him a check for $20,000 out of my insurance payout. It's just it was the right thing to do. It was we talked about it. We were both to kind of blame for not having the truck covered, which I get on my part 100%. But and he agreed on his part too. So we just like, you know what, dude, we're both at fault. It's a shitty deal. Like he didn't think it was right that I had to cover the whole truck. I didn't think it was right that he just walked away empty-handed with a pile of rubble. So yeah, I cut him a check for $20,000, and we're still good buddies. We talk on the phone, a couple times a week. We're still looking at rebuilding the truck, getting it finished. So, it sucked. That was a hard, out of a $140,000 payout, cutting a $20,000 check hurt. But I mean, the right thing to do is the right thing to do.
Wow, that's commendable, man. That's very commendable.
Yeah, you've had a rough couple of past years. So while we're on the subject of trucks, let's talk about yours.
Yeah, that was a fun one too. So a couple years ago, I had my truck stolen from the work parking lot. That was when I was working at the aerospace shop. I had like 20 intercoolers from ProCharger that I was still subcontracting for ProCharger. So I had like 20 intercoolers that were finished in the back of the truck. Plus I had 4, what do they call them? Like Bahama shades, like aluminum shutters that I had made for a customer. Of course, there we go. Truck got stolen. Of course, it had all that stuff in it. So that was about, probably a $10,000 or $12,000 loss. So if you own your own business and you're going to be transporting customers' parts in your vehicle, make sure it's on your company's insurance, because you will get stuck with a bill for the parts that you lost.
Ouch.
What freebies did you get when you got the truck back?
I got a meth pipe.
Oh, score!
Yeah, I got a meth pipe. So that was pretty cool. I got like 6 different people's checkbooks. I got a ton of like women's clothes. So, fits my figure real well.
What an asshole to steal the truck.
I got a free air compressor.
Hey, there you go.
Did you keep it?
Like, I got a bunch of like DeWalt tools. And I even like, I posted them up on Facebook Marketplace. Like, yo, dude, if you got your stuff stolen and you can tell me what initials are engraved in it, here's your shit back. Like, I got my truck and it runs, so I'm good. But I was trying to get people's tools back because, dude, I know it sucks, but
yeah,
nobody ever hit me up. So I was like, I got free tools, I guess. That's cool.
That's cool.
What kind of air compressor was it?
Yeah.
It was a little like Pancake Craftsman, like a little job site, running an air nailer or something.
Most expensive air compressor you ever bought, huh?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And then I lost all that shit in the fire too. So maybe it was karma.
Oh man, maybe it was karma.
What would you say, out of everything you've done throughout your career, what's the coolest or most unique project that you've gotten the chance to work on?
Oh man, the coolest project. It's probably going to be the prototype satellites I did. That was a really cool deal how that all came together. And I'm still kind of getting some jobs just from doing those. But I got hit up by an aerospace company. They had some satellite frames they needed built. They had sent them through like 6 different aerospace shops, like big time aerospace shops, and for whatever reason they couldn't get them done. They need to be fully welded. There was it's on my Instagram if you go back a couple years. But yeah, somehow a dude that I knew that I had done some work for also worked for this company. So he talked to him and he's like, hey, I know a guy that's pretty good. what's it hurt to send him some parts and see if he can do it? And I turned him around in like 2 days. Got these frames done, fully welded, had them on a pallet and shipped out. So I won that contract. Unfortunately, they ended up figuring out a way to bolt these things together instead of weld them. But Station Eric from Edge, again, they came through on a real solid one for me. So the way this thing was set up, it was 3-inch leg aluminum C channel that was like picture frame mitered into a corner, and then it had another piece of aluminum I-beam that came into it, so it went down in that corner. So you were like 4 inches from the outside edge to the bottom of that pocket, and it had to be TIG welded. Well, you can't get down there with a regular cup. So I had talked to Station Eric about, and I needed them like, this was like a Tuesday. These things had to be done Thursday. So I called Station Eric at like 4:00 Tuesday night, and I was like, dude, I need a 6-inch long quartz cup, and I need it overnighted. Like, here's my credit card. I don't care. Like, I've got a ton of money riding on this. Like, I need them overnighted. Sure enough, 7:00 in the morning, I had like 10 cups on my front door.
Oh my gosh.
And then actually Peter from CK, he's not there now, but he used to run their social media stuff. Same thing, like I knew I needed a pencil torch. Nobody online that does CK stuff had a pencil torch in stock. Nobody around here had a pencil torch. So I hit up Peter and I was like, dude, whatever you have to do, like I don't care if it's $800, like I need a pencil torch from CK on my front door tomorrow morning. Like I sent him the picture of my credit card. I was like, just run it. I don't care. And sure enough, dude had a pencil torch on my front porch with a hoodie, a hat, and a bunch of stickers the next morning. So, that was pretty cool that I could kind of, call in from some help and actually got it, because that was a big project. But so now anytime you see the ISS going overhead, I got something on the bottom side of it.
Now that
pretty
is
cool.
a cool story. That's a very cool story.
That's a flex.
Yeah.
What was the plan when your shop burnt down? Were you worried? Did you ever think about going back to Pro Charger or anything like that?
Because I was full time at Everlast at the time.
Yeah.
It's like I was still doing some of my own side work, so that obviously killed that for a little bit. But that's why I wasn't worried about paying my bills, because I wasn't using the shop to pay my bills at the time. I was full time with Everlast, so I was cool there. Like I was never really worried about like, oh, I'm going to lose the house. I don't. How am I going to eat? It was never like that. It was just, dude, I lost $500,000 in that fire. And that was Progressive's like depreciated value was 500,000. So I mean, that was a big hit. Basically even after my payout, it was like a $360,000 loss. A lot of it was just sentimental stuff, man. I mean, like my first welder I got for being sponsored, I had the very first Typhoon prototype. That was my little pet project. I had the first production Typhoon. So there was a lot of like sentimental stuff like that I lost. A bunch of my dad's tools were lost in the fire. So it was more of like the stuff I had collected over like 20 years of work, and that really hurt the most. It was sentimental stuff. Obviously I was still using it to make some money on the side, but it wasn't like that's how I was feeding my family.
Yeah.
Really, the stress of it came from I didn't even know the shop was on fire, and that was the crazy thing. Is it was July 4th night. I went outside to smoke. I'm on the back porch, and I'm taking it. I mean, it looked like a war zone around me at 4th of July. So I was like taking a video, like, oh man, this is crazy. And then that was at 10:10. At 10:30, I had a guy knocking on my front door that the shop was on fire. And by the time I got out there, I ran up to our vehicles. Our cars are parked like 6 foot from the shop, and they're like 10 feet from the back door. So I ran back there. I moved the cars. By the time I got there, like the car door handles were so hot, like it gave me 2nd-degree burns opening the doors. So I pulled the cars out real quick, and then, I mean, there was 20, 30-foot flames rolling out of the shop. So I mean, it was like, okay, everything's going.
Do they know what started the fire? I guess I never saw that if you posted that.
Neighbors fireworks. Yep, fire marshal said that it looks like the fire started in a trash can outside the shop, and then that trash can burned down. The flames wicked up underneath the steel siding, caught the spray foam on fire, and then it was basically a thermite fire after that. They put 7 tankers of water on that, and it was still hot when they left.
That's awful.
What, didn't you have a $10,000 camera for arc shots in there?
Oh yeah, dude. That's my this little dude. This is obviously not the one that was in the fire, but we got it replaced now. But yeah, this camera alone's $12,000.
Oh my god!
And then we had just bought brand new camera gear to do all the Everlast YouTube videos in my shop. So we had like another $60,000 just in camera gear and laptops and studio lights and microphones, another laptop, just for doing YouTube stuff that we lost. So that's part of why the Everlast YouTube channel's been on kind of a hiatus since then. Is we lost all of our equipment. We were building this place, so it's been a road, but we're back now. We're coming back.
I was watching you weld on that truck one time on a Everlast YouTube live video, and that's where I learned something that I used. Actually, I was using a 185 DV at a weld test in Hutchinson, Kansas, and he had me get on my back and weld on this chromoly tube that he clamped to the edge of the table. And I was like, how the fuck am I going to use this foot pedal? And that's where I learned in between the thighs.
The thigh master?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched him do that on YouTube Live, and that's where I used it. It was crazy.
Yeah, even doing the finger trigger's nice, and of course like a slider's nice. But man, even a lot of times like doing roll cages in cars, there's a lot of times I'll just use the foot pedal and I'll put it between my knees, or I'll put it up against the edge of the car or something and still run it with my foot. I mean, it's there's probably better ways, but it's the way I'm the most comfortable with. So
whatever you're comfortable with, that's the best way to do it.
You gotta find a way to be comfortable while being uncomfortable. It's the damnedest thing.
Yes, it is.
That's one customer that name dropped you. His name's Kenneth at Fabstar Performance Fabrication in Hutch. He name dropped you specifically because I was like, man, you got a 185 DV? I just got on this team. Like, this was, I don't know, that was almost 2 years ago.
I remember
now.
when you were going down there. I remember you talking about going down there.
Yeah, and yeah, it was crazy that he had a 185 DV to me because I had never ran that machine even.
They're a little tank, dude. For being a small unit, those things are a tank. Like I said, mine. Actually, I had given mine to my brother to use as a mobile stick welder, and he still has that thing. It still runs like a top. I mean, that thing's 11 going on almost 12 years old now.
Wow.
And I ran the dog shit out of that thing. I mean, I ran the piss out of it.
Yeah, I love my MTS 225, but this new Hurricane 220.
Those are pretty slick.
Yeah.
What do you think of the menu difference between the Lightning and the Hurricane?
The pinwheel sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pinwheel sucks. So
yeah, we're gonna transition. So like all of the MIG machines have all the LCD MIG machines have that same style of menu that the Hurricane has. So we're gonna transfer everything over to that Cyclone / Hurricane style menu. So like we are gonna have an LCD option available on the EXTs here pretty soon. And it's going to have the same TIG menu that the Hurricane has. So there'll be a continuity across the whole lineup. So if you know how to run a Cyclone and you're used to that menu, and then you get an EXT, you'll feel comfortable with the menu because you don't have to relearn a new menu system.
Yeah, the pinwheel didn't suck too bad. It's that, like, originally I was like, fuck, dude, I can't remember where this is at, where that's at.
Exactly. Yeah, oh no, 100%.
Yeah. But once you
it was one of those things like once you use it for like 3 or 4 months, you're like, oh yeah, this is simple. Like I know where everything is, but like even me, I'll run an EXT most of the time, or like the Typhoon the last year or so, and then I go to get on an MTS and I'm like, what do I have to do again? Like I've got to relearn it. So we're going away from that menu here pretty soon, just because we don't like the hidden menus. like the Typhoon, obviously that was like a big driving force behind that program style is no hidden menus. We still have one, but it's basically a set it and forget it menu. You go into it maybe the first time you turn the machine on, and you'll probably never touch that menu again.
Yeah.
So
Andrew,
I don't really count that.
Unfortunately for Andrew, he still has the pinwheel on the MTS 275.
I was about to say, I know exactly what you're talking about, even though I've only touched one Everlast, and that's mine. The menu options, it was definitely a little bit of a learning curve, figuring out where everything was at, and
Yeah,
like,
it is.
okay,
Yeah,
go
it
here,
is.
go here, figure this out. But once I did, I can fly through it now. Like you said, after 2 or 3 months, you can fly right through it, and there's no issue.
Yeah.
But man, that welder, it is so nice. I was going to talk to you. I saw on one of y'all's Instagram posts, y'all had a remote wire feeder for y'all's MIG welders, and I can't remember what model it comes with, but
The MTS 400 and the 353 DPI.
yeah. Well, y'all posted a picture on your Instagram. He had his welder down here, and then he made a swing arm setup to get his wire feeder above the table. And I was like, man, I really want that wire feeder. Will it work with my 275? How do I make this work? Because God, I would love to do that. Like if I could make that work, it would be great. But
yeah, those remote feeders are pretty handy.
Yeah, I really like
bigger units.
Absolutely, and I like the idea of getting it kind of above your work table, especially if you're just doing mass production whatnot at that one table. So
just having that weight off of your arm and being overhead, dude, it makes a huge difference.
Huge difference, absolutely.
So here's a question I've been dying to ask. When me and Andrew go to FabTech, it's fun. Do you still have fun even though you have to work it?
I look forward to FabTech as I'm packing up FabTech. Like it's so much fun for me. Like, I'm not I probably have a different, people probably view me differently from, all the YouTube stuff, but I'm not a very sociable person. I don't like big crowds. I don't like going out. Like I like to stay in my camp. I like to work. I like to be left alone. But for whatever reason, like getting around, that community, dude, I have a blast. Like I have a blast talking about the machines, like seeing people get excited about our stuff, especially like with the Typhoon when it came out in Atlanta. Like we weren't planning on having people run that machine at that show, but it was going so well and people were asking so many questions about it. We're like, screw it. Like it is a rough prototype. It is very, very rough, but let's let people run it. And dude, I mean, it was nonstop after Atlanta FabTech. Like people were hounding us about the Typhoon. So like stuff like that makes it really fun for me. Like I got to see, my good buddy Mark Winchester this year. That was the first time we met in person. So getting to see people like that, dude, that's what does it for me. Like Mark and I probably talk to Mark Winchester more than I talk to my wife, like honestly. And now that, he's our other tech support guy now at Everlast. So it's me and Mark Winchester for Everlast tech support. So like I'm talking to Mark all day, every day. Love that dude like a brother. So being able to get to meet him and hang out with him for a couple days, dude, that made my year.
I talked to Mark on the phone the other week because my welder was doing something funny. Had a strange high pitched noise coming out of it. So I think I emailed tech support and then I dropped my number there. And he called me and talk about the nicest dude ever. He's like, I told him, I was like, I'm not in town right now. I mean, I'm out in Nebraska. I'm not around my machine. I was just kind of messaging y'all before my 1 year went up in case there was some sort of warranty. And he said, no, we're going to take care of it. Don't you worry about the warranty. Whenever you get back to your shop, send me this, and this video and we'll get you figured out. So yeah, I'd like to meet him in person because he seemed like a really cool
Mark's
dude.
super cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's funny, so Bryn, do you know about that whole, like me and Mark, like our history?
Yeah, well, a little bit because no, not okay. Yeah, you say what you have to say.
Okay, so Mark, Mark and I did not used to like each other very much.
Really? Oh boy.
Yeah, we were like, well, it was kind of I think back when I was at Pro Charger, like I was really like asserting my name, like in the aluminum welding, like I was up there. And so was Mark. And I felt like I had a very different style and technique and a philosophy of welding aluminum. totally polar opposite from what Winchester had. And I think people we were friends with kind of like pit us against each other. You know, we had never talked, but like Mark went on like welding tips and tricks, and he had some shit to say about running a gas lens on aluminum. And then I went on with Becker, and I had some shit to say about people only running standard and collet bodies. So we had kind of like taken these digs back at back and forth, not directly, but we both knew who we were talking to. And then, funny enough, Mark had those wildfires, running through Northern California a couple years ago. And I knew, just through the grapevine that his wife was pregnant with their daughter, and they had to evacuate their house. And like I had just had a newborn. So I think that's what really hit me is like, oh, dude, like I can't even imagine being in that situation. And then, I mean, that's Mark works from his home, so he couldn't work. He couldn't, he's got his wife is 9 months pregnant. And so it really hit me like, maybe we aren't, we've never talked, we don't agree with each other on anything. Come to find out that's not true. So I reached out to Mark and I was like, dude, I don't have any money to help you out with. I have some commission from Everlast sales. I can sign over to you. I've got some baby clothes that high chair and stuff. Maybe I could send you like whatever I can do. Like, I don't have that much money, but I can, offer you some clothes and some leftover diapers and stuff. And that's what ended up, I think we've talked every day since then. And we're both huge moto nerds. So like, we're getting ready to watch Supercross, not together, but we're super nerdy. So we'll be watching Supercross. Like, oh shit, you see Tomac? Oh man, fuck Jet Lawrence, like, dude, super nerd level. And come to find out, dude, like Mark and I are basically the same person. Like, other than I like to use a gas lens for aluminum and he likes to use a standard cup, Mark and I are the same dude.
Bro, I sent him a text probably a month or two ago asking him like, how the fuck do you get your etching lines so small? And he was like, send me a video you welding, send this and that, because I heard on his episode with Jason that he ran the Dynasty 400 and that's what I run at work all day.
Yeah.
And so he was like, I know this shit like the back of my hand. So and then he told me like, do this, put your balance on this, everything. And he was like, just adjust it from there because it won't be the exact same. And like, he's a intimidating guy to see in person. He's got this he looks like Grizzly Adams, dude. When I picture a modern day Blackbeard, I think of him, dude. He's got this long ass beard. He's wearing all black at FabTech, and it's like his hat was super close to his eyes like this. Like the most intimidating guy I saw there in my life.
With a name like Mark Winchester, though, I think you gotta look a little dangerous. That's a pretty badass name.
And then I shot him that message, and he's like the most friendly guy ever.
Oh, dude, I mean, that's the thing is, especially the last couple of years, like really getting to be good buddies with Mark. Like, that dude will tell you anything and everything you want to know, and that's like one of the funnest things for me is. And Mark and I talk about this too. Like, there's probably 90% of welders out there that you can be a good welder, but most people don't know what they're really doing. They can do this particular thing because that's what they do at work and they've learned to do that thing. But, there's a lot of people, like even good aluminum welders that don't understand like the theory and the science behind, the adjustments. And so that's where Mark and I get in some really, dude, like nerd level style conversations about TIG welding. And it's especially having such different backgrounds and, in philosophies, it's kind of cool, like bouncing what I've learned off of Mark and what he knows, we get some pretty cool conversations about welding.
Another guy that I can edit this out if you don't want this, but I know your opinion differs from Rush Kane on aluminum, right?
Quite a bit.
He still ain't gonna say nothing. Fair enough.
You want me to cut that out?
Nah, I don't
Okay.
There's nothing to hide.
Yeah, which fair enough.
Yeah,
Everybody's got their own way to do it, I suppose.
Are you still on Team Gaslands or?
100%, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
The
Could you?
some aluminum casting work with Moffett last night. That's why I've got that ceramic cup on there
No way.
I
instead
forgot
of
you were with Bob last night.
oh yeah, Bob Father.
So
Could you give us like a quick 10-second reason why you like Gaslins for aluminum? I gotta hear it from you personally.
So the reason I started using a gas lens, and this is where they both have their place. Okay, so they both have their place. My thing was at Pro Charger, we had a lot of like really tight spots to get into, and even running like a 5 cup, you couldn't get the cup down into the spot and see what you were doing. So I started running. A number 8 gas lens, and I found that at like 25, 28 CFH, you could get like a half inch or more of stick out in these. They were contained tight spots, so they would trap the gas and make an envelope for you. So you could run, half inch, 3/4 inch stick out that I couldn't do with a standard cup and collet. And so instead of like trying to switch back and forth all the time, I just started learning how to use a gas lens all the time. And then I learned how to set up my machine to match the gas lens. And I learned how to, set up my gas flow and get it dialed in for a gas lens. It's a different philosophy. And, a lot of times people think you run a gas lens to save gas. On aluminum, it's not like that. Like you'll run, if you're running a 7 cup, like a standard, you run, 15, 18 CFH. On a gas lens, I'm running like 24 CFH. And that's what, 20 to 24 CFH is what works for a gas lens. Granted, I run a little bit different mix than I don't run pure argon. I run a special mix, and it kind of requires a higher flow. But to me, the benefits, outweigh the cons of it. So it kind of formed. My style came from production welding and trying to be as fast and efficient as possible. So that's like I'd run an 1/8 inch tungsten, even though I wasn't really welding anything over like 170 amps. I'd run 1/8 inch because I wanted to run 4 or 5 intercoolers at a time and not have to stop and resharpen my tungsten, which that's why I ran 1/8 inch.
Yeah.
So a lot of my technique now that I use for everything developed from trying to be as productive as possible at Pro Charger. So, I'm kind of a product of my environment, so to speak.
I was gonna ask you, what's that Stargon blend? You call it Stargon?
Yeah, so Praxair Lindy, they call it Stargon AL. My local AWG, they custom blend it for me. We just call it the hot mix. So I'll call up AWG, hey man, I need 2 bottles of hot mix, and they know what I'm talking about. But it's pure argon, so it's ultra high pure argon, and then it's 200 parts per million nitrous oxide and 200 parts per million oxygen. So it's got reactive gas in it, which normally you don't want. But what it does, and I've got some pictures that it cuts your etching by like 75%. So you get less etching, you get a more stable arc, you get a hotter arc like you're running a 25, 30% helium mix. And you get a lot more shine to your bead with it. The way the gas atomizes with the aluminum when it's molten, that's a little bit over my head, but from my understanding, the way it atomizes with the aluminum, it makes it a lot shinier. You don't get as much of a haze or as much etching, and that's why I run it.
Is that what Mark runs?
No, Mark runs UHP, ultra high purity.
Where'd you learn that?
Was that when I was at Pro Charger, I was running the gas lens, and I was trying to find, better ways of doing things. So we were running pure tungsten, or we were running like zirconiated was what we were running. And so and this is back like we were running synchro wave still. and I started running a gas lens, and then I started running like E3 tungsten on a transformer, and then eventually landed on lanthanated, 2% lanthanated. And dude, I could hold a point on a sinker wave with 2% lanthanated for forever with a gas lens. And then I was talking to my Prax rep. I was digging through their website one day, and just digging through like on aluminum gases, and they had a little snippet about Stargon AL, which is an aluminum specific mix. And so I asked my rep for a bottle of it just to test it out. He got me a bottle. They had to ship it from Kentucky over to Kansas City. And dude, I mean, I switched bottles out, and I was like, yep, we are never running anything else but this shit. Like it was like 3 dabs in. I was like, yep, sold. We're done. We're not using Argon
Really?
anymore.
That much of
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Interesting.
So another thing that you do a little bit differently from everybody else, every time I'm on Facebook and a question comes up from like, I see you don't know shit about welding or TIG welding for beginners.
Are y'all on that? Are y'all on that Facebook group too? Just,
So
good.
anytime there's a question about helmets, you've got a specific helmet that I've never heard anybody else run besides you.
Oh.
And you should probably be sponsored because I remember the exact name just because of you.
The Stellstrom WHP 4000.
Okay, yeah.
This is dude, I mean, I could run any hood I want. And I buy Stellstrom hoods. That's it. Like I could run anything I want, but that's the Stellstrom. It's $170. It's better than a 3350. It's lighter than a 3350. The headgear is more comfortable. It's lighter than an A50. I like that it has the lens is recessed a little bit, so you can set it down and you don't scratch your lens up. It's also not a $800 hood, so if I drop it or break it, it's not like, oh man, I just lost half a mortgage payment. It's
$170. Yeah, that's not bad.
I don't buy fast food for 3 days and I've got a new hood.
That's true.
It's very true.
So,
and it's got the largest viewing area of any hood. I mean, it's simple. It's bare bones. That's man, I love it.
I want to take you back a little bit. I'm not sure if you'll remember this. What makes a strip pole for sale in Topeka, Kansas, the most Topeka thing you've ever seen?
Have you been to Topeka?
I haven't.
I have not either.
Dude, she was selling a home version of a stripper pole that was used. I mean, that's Topeka.
That's Topeka, right?
Yeah, that's Topeka.
What'd you do?
And it was in Topeka. That's the thing, is it was in Topeka. I was like, that's the most Topeka, Kansas shit you've ever seen.
What'd you do with Bob last night? He's in Kansas, right?
Yeah, he's based out of Arkansas City, Kansas, about 3 hours, three and a half hours south. So he's like just east of Wichita.
I'm there.
That's not terrible.
I'm there once a month.
Really?
Yeah.
He's down there. He's down in Arkansas City.
Yeah.
But no, Bob came up. He had a 1930s McCollum supercharger pump housing off of an old flathead. He had a customer that was wanting him to weld up some cracks in it, and this thing, dude, it was unweldable. I'm gonna put it that way. It had frozen, and it had a couple big cracks show up. So we were like gouging those out, and then you would literally weld that up, and then a crack would show up on the other side of the part, like not even remotely where you were welding. It'd start cracking on the farther side. So it was the thing was a nightmare. But yeah, he brought that up to have me take a look at it, see what I thought, because I guess I know how to weld aluminum a little bit. So
He might be the aluminum guy, just maybe.
Man,
so he brought it up, and it welded okay. It's just as soon as you would pull off, you would hear it pinging on the other side of the part, and like 2 more cracks would show up. You weld that crack up, and then 2 more would show up. Thing was just it's scrap, but it was still a good learning experience because he had a guy laser it to see what the the makeup of that aluminum was, and it actually. So this is 1930s casting. It actually lasered out to be close to 70-75 aluminum. So it had a really high zinc content, which you could tell. Like as soon as I lit up on it, I was like, yeah, that's got zinc in it, because you can tell by the color of the arc. And so it was like it was spitting zinc out left and right. So we were trying some different filler rods to see what took better. And 55, 54 actually seemed to. It's got a higher zinc content, and it actually seemed to work pretty well on that casting.
What's Bob doing nowadays?
Bob's a Roman man. He's a rambling man. I mean, in more ways than one. That's kind of a pun. If you've ever talked to Bob Moffat, he's a bit of a rambling man. But no, Bob's living the life as a retired professional. And he's every time I talk to him, he's going to a different welding contest to be a judge, or he's going to some place as an advisor. I mean, he's all over the place, man. I think he's put like 100,000 miles on his car the last 2 months, because he's all over the place.
What's a guy like Bob Moffat drive?
He drives a Champagne Toyota Avalon.
Attaboy.
And I'm telling you, that dude had 99% of a fab shop stuffed in the back of that thing last night. The only thing he didn't have is a bandsaw and a CNC plasma table. I swear to God.
Shout out to Ellis. We need an attachment for the top of a Toyota Avalon.
Ellis needs to make a trailer hitch attachment bandsaw
for their 1600 size saw. Oh man,
Bob would have a rolling.
That would be great.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I saw when I was scrolling through your 543 Facebook photos, I saw a picture of you and Bob in. I believe you went to Bob and you had long hair.
Oh yeah, that was when I still. That's when I still had some hair. The kids, that was before kids.
How'd you meet Bob?
Man. So how did that go? So I think it was after I filmed with Everlast down at the old weld.com studio in Tampa. I did some filming down there, and then Bob was like on the Everlast and Edge team, so we were kind of in the same group chats. And I didn't realize Bob was so close to me. And I think he hit me up and was just like, "Hey, dude, I've got some." So I got a text message come through. Sorry. He's like, "I've got some stuff down here I want you to take a look at, some aluminum stuff." So I just ran down there one weekend with my brother. We ran down there and hung out with Bob for a weekend, having a grand old time.
Okay.
And then when I was at the aerospace shop, we were having some porosity issues on 6061 T6, D17 welds. We were, doing some certification stuff, and man, we were having horrible porosity issues, but it was like random. And it didn't seem to matter if it was like, prep or setup. It was just kind of a 50-50 if we were going to get porosity. So, dude, I ran like 30 test plates and ran them down to Bob one morning, and we shot them on his x-ray. And so I had everything like labeled out, like what was what, the setup, everything I could list as a variable was written on that plate. And we decided that the only thing that was consistent was sweating the material before welding. Prep didn't matter, whether you used a flap disc or you used like a Weldo, oxide remover. It didn't matter. Even like call it versus, gasolines didn't matter. It was all, the only thing that seemed to matter was actually sweating the material before you welded it. And there's mixed opinions on that. There's guys that'll say, well, that's just a result of the combustion, of your gas you're using for the flame. That's why you have water vapor. That could be, is that possible? Yeah. But I think there is something to not using the heat as a preheat, but using it as, getting some of the moisture out of the material. Is all the moisture that comes to the surface, what was in the material? Yeah, probably not. But, when you put a flame to a piece of fresh aluminum, you can see that vapor line from the water, like, shoot up from the flame. And then as it gets hot enough, it goes away. I personally believe there's something to that reducing porosity in 6061 is dependent upon sweating the material.
So
I'm sure there's people that'll disagree with that, but I've got the X-rays to prove that it worked for me. So
You've done
that's all
it,
that really
so,
matters.
yeah.
Yeah, it worked for me. That's all that matters. That's all I care about.
so far on this podcast, we talk more about meeting the guy behind the torch instead of welding. So here's something completely non-welding related. What do you think would happen throughout the entire country if something like Waco or Ruby Ridge happened again?
You got to round up now.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you say on here.
I think if another Ruby Ridge, like a true Ruby Ridge situation happened, I think you'd see something that like the cattle ranchers out in Nevada a couple years ago. I think you'd see something like that happen again. I think you'd see. I think there's enough people that are pissed off about how things have been going, and even somewhat through Trump, but especially even now, there's a lot of saying toes being stepped on that I don't think the general media is paying attention to, and I think there's a lot of people that are a lot more pissed off than a lot of people know.
Yeah,
I'd say that more than half the people know.
Yeah, there'd probably be. I don't know. I think in mine and Andrew's lifetime. I don't know about you. You're getting old. No, I'm just kidding. I think in our lifetime there might be a civil war, not a race civil war. I don't even.
It's a philosophy of
Yeah.
a war of philosophy.
Yeah.
I could the way things are. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, we're due for it. I mean, not talking about it lightly. I'm not talking about it lightly, but it's just the history repeats itself, and it's if you look at the history of every country, we're coming up or overdue for some kind of revolution, if you want to say.
Yeah, some shit.
And you mentioned the Nevada deal. That was probably the most refreshing middle finger to the government I have ever seen.
I'm not familiar with that.
I had never heard about that. I'll try and find a YouTube video for you, Brent. I saw it through TikTok, just a short clip, and then I watched the whole documentary or whatnot on YouTube, and I was like, yes, that is how it should be. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was man, what was that? What was those guys? The last name that was really tied to that? I can't remember
what his last name was. Nope.
Yeah, I can't remember it now.
Huh.
But it'll go. I think that'll go down. That was maybe like 7-8 years ago.
I believe it was. Yes.
So I think the way that we view those of us that have an opinion about Ruby Ridge and Waco, I think that whole situation will be viewed in the same light. Kind of like the whole Haymeyer situation's viewed by those of us of respectable opinion.
Yep.
I think those guys will be viewed the same way as kind of like the soft underbelly hero, the behind the shadows hero. That's I think that's how those guys will be viewed. They'll be viewed as like cult heroes to a sect of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would I like to consider you how I explained to Andrew as your role at Everlast? I said this is kind of how I explain it to everybody. You're like the retard wrangler of all the ambassadors.
The influencer marketing manager.
Oh yeah, there's the official term. That's what's on his desk there at his Everlast facility there.
So yeah, I mean it's I do that. So I manage bringing on new affiliates, managing our current affiliates, distributing prototype machines between people I think will be the best for testing them and giving us feedback. Also, leaning on those guys for if we need something particular done with a machine, finding the right people for that. That's one of the jobs I do. Obviously, I do all the Facebook stuff. Keeping up with those two accounts. Adminning those pages, and then I kind of watch the I don't run the Instagram account, but I watch a lot of the messages and comments on there too. You know, trying to help people out. Obviously, doing sales and tech support. You know, the YouTube stuff. So, and then I work behind the, that's the, probably the most fun part that I don't talk about a lot is, you know, working behind the scenes with, you know, coming up with new stuff for Everlast. That's probably the most fun. Like seeing where, like knowing where we've been and knowing where we are going. That's, we're going to surprise a lot of people in the next year or so.
How many people on a weekly basis would you say you have to turn down for free welders?
How many people on a daily basis, man? It's like, dude, and this is what sucks is I want to help people out. Like that's, you know, I want to help people out at the end of the day. People got to realize too, like, dude, we're a small company, man. Like, you know, handing out like $30,000 in product is kind of a big deal for us. Like that's, you know, we're still small, even though as popular as we are, we're still a really small company, especially compared to like your, you know, big 3 or 4. We're, you know, we're a little guy on the block still. But dude, daily, I bet it's like probably 10 to 12 a day that I get a message or an email about, hey man, I'm starting up a YouTube channel. I've got like 30 followers on Instagram. Can I get a Typhoon?
No, you cannot.
No.
Yep.
That was me back in the day.
Yeah.
We all got to start somewhere, but I get the same thing even on my small scale with my welding hoods. It's like, hey, I'm starting this TikTok channel for welding. Can I have a free hood? I'm like, well, no, I'm sorry. I mean, I give away a lot of hoods, but I don't know. To certain people, it's just like it gets tiresome answering those Instagram requests for sure.
No, and that's it's getting worse, and that's like something like I've never asked for. Hey, can I get a free this? Can I get a free like? I've never been to one to ask. You know, I might purposely put myself in a situation that could result in something like that, but
right.
Like, dude, I'm not gonna. If you don't want to work with me, I'm not gonna ask to work with you, type of deal. You know,
Yep.
like I want someone to want to work with me. Like, you know, Selstrom. Like, I love their hoods. If they want to give me a free hood and they want to work with me, that's awesome. But I use Selstrom. Like that's what I'm gonna use. That you know that's. But I'm not gonna be like, hey, dude, I use your hoods and I do this and this. Can I get some free stuff? Like, no, it's. If you like what I'm using, and then hit me up. You know,
absolutely.
It was crazy to me when I got asked to by Oleg, and then Oleg gave me your number, and it's funny because I think the exact message he said was, "Yeah, bro, I give you Jesse number."
Yeah,
yeah, that was crazy, dude. I was 17, I think. 17.
Well, yeah, I remember seeing you come over to the booth, and like we talked quite a bit in Atlanta, and then I think I was just like scrolling through stuff on TikTok, like in the hotel room, and I saw a couple of your videos come up, and I was like, oh shit, I remember that kid. Like, fuck, I talked to him for like 20, 30 minutes. Like,
yeah, dude.
And then I realized you were like, you know, not local, but you know, you're semi-local, and then I kind of watched you for a little bit, and I had mentioned to you to Oleg, like, hey, dude, the kid looks like he's, you know, kind of on the up and up. So I guess I called that one all right.
So will we see you in Orlando then? This upcoming Fab Tech. Heck yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I've got a pretty busy year now, so I'm going to there's a dealer show called Gata. So I'm going to go to that. Then we've got AIWD in Atlantic City this year. We've got Rec Week down in Dallas I'm going to. I've got FabTech Mexico I'm going to.
Oh, wow.
I've got Skills USA Nationals I'm going to in June down in Atlanta. Then we've got FabTech, obviously, and then SEMA and PRI. So it's I've got a busy year. And then somewhere between there, I think I'm going over to the factory for 3 or 4 weeks too. So
in China? Whoa. Fuck, I gotta mark that. I'm gonna cut that out.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, dude, our machines are manufactured in China. There's nothing to hide
there.
I
thought it was Vietnam. That's what I was gonna correct myself.
No.
Gotcha.
No, we've got a factory in the it's owned by the same owner. So the factory we use in China is a privately owned factory that we use there. And then he also has a location in the Philippines as well that we do some manufacturing in. But that factory's mainly a backup in case shit goes south with China and Taiwan. Then he's got a place in the Philippines that's ready to go.
How did Oleg get into it?
Dude. So that's a fun story. So Oleg, and I don't know exactly how he got started on this, but Oleg had a pit bike, like, mini motorcycle brand called OGM, and it was like he was starting just to do like the direct import type stuff, nothing fancy. Well, then he kept having guys like ask him like, why don't you, let's build a better bike. I wish your bike did this, or I wish it had this. So he went with, I think it was BBR, Brown Brothers Racing. They're well known for their pit bikes. He had like a frame designed by them, and then he got with Marzocchi and got good suspension, and then he got good brakes, and he had a company called Daytona. He was using their motor that was a super, super high quality motor, and he built like a badass, like, this is a badass pit bike. Like, it's durable. It's meant for an adult. It's sick. So that was called OGM pit bikes. So he was like taking to like Pismo, everything out, out in SoCal, and like letting people ride these bikes, and he was selling a ton of them. And he sold that company, and it's now Piranha. So if you look up like Piranha pit bikes,
Yep.
that's Oleg's old company. It's the same bike that he was building.
Wow.
So he sold that, but then when he was like at Pismo and all these places, he saw all these people running generators. Like everybody had a generator for lights and a, air compressor or this and that. And he's like, man, like back then, we're talking early 2000s, a 6,000 watt generator was like fucking $12,000, dude. It was stupid. And he's like, I can import those. So he started importing generators. Well, then people that had the generator started hitting them up like, hey man, I need a plasma cutter. I need this. I need that. I need a small welder for, doing repairs while we're out, at Pismo or whatever. And so then he started importing welders. And then, it started out as like direct import, like a factory had a setup. You basically slap a different color on it, and it's now an Everlast. And as we've grown, we've brought more people on. We've had more, we've got engineers. We've got a whole design team. And, now our machines they're a full custom build from the ground up. Like the Typhoon, you cannot, that's a full custom ground up machine for us. And, we've got exclusive rights to it. The factory can't sell it anywhere else. So it's, you kind of start out that, we didn't have the best product. And I think still, we're still recovering from some of the damage that the early machines did, because they, we didn't, at the time, nobody really knew what they were doing. And we've grown the company where we've brought like myself, Mark Winchester, one of our other guys, Mark Lugo. We've brought really knowledgeable welders into the company to improve the company. And that's where the Typhoon comes from. You're going to see a bunch of machines come out in the next year. That's where that came from. A lot of this has been in development for like 5 or 6 years. And it's starting to come to fruition now. And it's odd that we're just now like really starting to catch our stride, in the industry. I think when someone honestly looks for a new TIG welder and they're serious about TIG welding, there's really only like 3 names they're thinking of. It's Fronius, Miller, and Everlast. And I might be a little biased, or, people might think that's arrogant to think, but that's what I believe. I think there's 3 main choices. It's Fronius, Miller, or Everlast. Anybody serious about TIG welding isn't stoked on getting a new precision TIG or a new aspect. They're not. It's just, that's just how it is. And
when you look at the Miller and you see how expensive it is, and you look at the Fronius, and you're like, God dang. And then you look at Everlast, and it's like, well, hold in. How do I warrant going to pay, double or triple for the same machine?
And it would make sense too. Like, I mean, with our price point, it makes sense if you only have like a 90-day warranty or a 1-year warranty.
Yeah.
We've got the longest, most comprehensive warranty in the industry. Like,
That
5 years, parts and
Yeah.
labor, 3 years free shipping to and from a repair facility. We'll send you parts so you can fix your machine and still keep your warranty. Like,
Yep.
that brings
ask one of the big four to send you a board and let you install it and keep your warranty.
Yeah.
that
It ain't happening.
that brings me to a funny transition point. That 5-year warranty. I don't know if you knew this, and I don't know if anybody that knows that I'm a ambassador knows this. But when I got my first MTS 225, I plugged it in, I hit the switch, and I fucking knocked all the power out, and I fried my fucking welder. Like the first time turning it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I called support and got a new one. I think it was like 2 days, and then I shipped back the old one.
Yeah, one of the things too, like people, this is where it's tough too, because like our business model, we're starting to open up more brick and mortar distributors. Obviously, we're not on the level as the big guys, but we're starting to get more and more distributors. So, one thing I don't think people realize is that we are shipping sensitive electronics via UPS. Like, shit happens sometimes that's not always our fault.
Yes.
But that's the thing is like if someone just calls and says, "Hey, dude, we got this thing in, it's DOA." Like, all right, dude, like I got a new one coming. Like, here's a label, ship yours back, and we've got one already on the way to you. Like we know it happens. It's built into our business model that we know that shit is going to happen, and so that's why there's really, I mean, we ask some questions, but we don't. It's not like, well, I need video of it. I need pictures. Like, dude, if you tell me that the machine's fucked up from the start, then yeah, I think something probably happened in shipping. It probably got dropped and something broke loose because a welding machine isn't meant to be dropped from 10 feet up and rolled down a ramp. We try to foam it, we put super heavy foam around it, but dude, we had a machine the other day. A customer sent me a picture, and there is a perfect fork hole through the box.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
somebody ran a fork from a forklift through this machine, and they still shipped it, dude. Like, they continued it down the line. And so he's like, dude, what the fuck? I'm like, you can't blame me for that, dude.
Yeah.
Dude,
Like,
I'll tell
sorry.
you, it was just so refreshing talking to Mark when I was starting to try and diagnose my issue. I mean, it was like the same day I sent that email, I was getting a phone call and we had it hashed out as to what we were going to do about it. I mean, coming from a guy who's not a rep like you guys are, I don't see myself getting red, blue, or bumblebee yellow. I just don't see it. I have no reason to. I see everything I
Well,
need
like
on Everlast. I mean,
a lot of times too, and I know this from experience because I've ran other machines. Like, I ran a Dynasty forever at Pro Charger. But when you call into like tech support for other companies, it's okay. What error code do you have? Okay, it's a help 31. Well, have you tried turning it off? Yeah. Like, that's the first thing I did was like I tried turning it on and off. I'm like, okay, that didn't clear it. Like, no, that didn't clear it. There's a problem. Okay, well, call your local rep and have it sent in for repair. It's like, that's the end of the diagnosis. Like, there's no
and then you're down,
diagnosis.
and then you're down that machine. And imagine if you don't have a backup machine. Now you're screwed. Now man can't make his money.
Well, and that's the thing is like, then you're at the whim of the repair facility too. Like, it might be 3 months. I get those calls every day that, oh yeah, I've got this machine that went down. We send it in for repair. They tell us it's going to be 3 months for parts. So I need to get a new machine. And that's why I'm calling to buy one. Like, okay, cool. Like, and they're like, well, are we in the same situation if this machine goes down? I go, dude, if it goes down on a Monday, you call me, you call tech support. I diagnose it. I send you the board. It's there by Thursday at the latest. And in 15 to 30 minutes, you're back up and running. Like, it's not
Absolutely.
a 3 month, and you still keep your warranty. Like, that, we designed the machines to be easy to work on so we can reduce downtime. That's how you can't really beat that.
My dad's a diehard Miller guy. He's been in the industry like 30 years. And when I graduated high school, he got me a Miller-Matic. And then like 2 months later, I got on the Everlast team and he's been running my Everlast, and I just bought my first house, so I'm moving out right now. And I said, all right, you can keep one welder. What do you want? And he asked for the MTS 225.
That is great.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another thing. My old welding master back when I was 16, he's just this Jesse. He's this old feller out in the backwoods of Florida. He taught me, all sorts of fab stuff and everything I know. Die-hard Miller guy. That's all he's ever ran because that's all he ever started on. He had a few Lincolns back in the day, but at the end he always bought blue. And I was talking to him about what machine I should get for my first welding machine, to weld stuff at my house. And he said, I don't know about you, Andrew, but I've been seeing these videos on these Everlast welders, and, well, they may be lime green, but I'm not going to lie, for the price point, I think if I ever got another machine, I'd get one. And then you fast forward, 5 years, 21, I bought my 275 Lightning.
Yeah.
It's just a super, super cool circle around. He told me about it way back then before I even knew, who Everlast was. So it was pretty funny.
It's cool, too, because, I get to see, especially from my position with the company and doing all the social media stuff. I see people I get to talk to people about buying their first welder, and a lot of that comes with our price point, but we have such a wide range too. So I'll get to see someone buy their first welder, and now that I've been with the company long enough, I'm seeing people buy their second or third welder or their fourth, or they just wanted to learn how to weld for doing their projects. There's this guy named Glenn Pearson, 3 years ago, bought his first TIG machine because he wanted to learn how to fix some of the stuff on his crab boat, and he wanted to build a mobile crab boil trailer. So he bought a TIG machine. Dude, I had to teach him how to put the torch together correctly. And we did this every couple days. He'd send me some videos of some welds he'd done, or different stuff that he was working on, trying to get better. And I'd critique him, say, hey, try this. It looks like your torch angle's too, a little off. Try this and that. Dude, it wasn't 3 or 4 months, and dude was running some good beads, real good stuff, stuff I would consider acceptable,
That's
on
super cool.
projects.
That is really
cool.
And
I told him, though, I was like, dude, you got to be real careful, because if people start finding out you can weld aluminum this well, you're gonna stop crabbing pretty soon. Sure enough, it was a year later. He calls me up. He's like, dude, I've been full time, doing aluminum welding for the last 3 months. I'm like, no shit, dude. That's crazy. I wasn't even running my own shop at that time. I was still working for somebody else full time.
Yeah.
It was just really cool to see that transition from having to teach him how to put a TIG torch together to a year and a half, almost 2 years later, dude's basically running his own aluminum repair shop.
Which is crazy for aluminum, because I think aluminum's put on a pedestal.
Oh yeah,
especially down where I'm at in Florida, a lot of aluminum boats, tuna towers, watchtowers, stuff like that. People hear you can weld aluminum. It's like, oh, I got this cracked tower I need welded, or this thing on my transom needs welded. It's nuts. So yeah, I can imagine he got out of crabbing pretty darn quick.
Yeah. He was like, dude, as soon as it started getting around, he's like, that was it. He's like, I was getting calls every day, oh, I heard some so-and-so, you can weld aluminum pretty good. And then, yeah, next thing you know, that's what he's doing. I was like, I told you, man, that's crazy that you're running your own shop before I am.
That is really crazy. Man. That is quite the feat, no doubt.
I think we're coming to a good wrapping up point, and one thing we ask all of our guests before we end the show: what is your favorite music genre to listen to while you work or weld?
Okay, so I have probably the oddest taste in music.
Oh boy.
So I like really old country. I'm talking Hank Sr., Conway Twitty, old country, 30s, 40s, 50s, up into I like Waylon, but I like the older stuff a lot better. So I'll have Hank Williams Sr. singing, Lonely Lonesome Blues, and then the next song is the New Bomb Turks, some 80s thrash punk, hardcore thrash punk, or it's either hardcore thrash punk or it's old country. That's what I like. So it kind of gives me a I'll kind of get in the twangy like rhythm, and then just as I'm kind of like, okay, I need to like pick up my energy level, then all of a sudden like the Dead Kennedys come on, or Agent Orange comes on, like a 80s thrash punk band. So that's me. I'm kind of eclectic, but then again, I'll throw on some. I'm not opposed to throwing on some Lil Boosie and doing some hood rat shit either. So.
Doing some hood rat shit.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then, I'll let a little ghetto side come out. I
awesome.
get down to some Lil Boosie though.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Jesse. Where can all the viewers find you?
Oh man, so TikTok. Fortunately, I got in early enough. I can have all my account names the same. So it's McCollum, McCollum.weldfab on TikTok, Instagram. Jesse McCollum on Facebook. I'm an admin on all the Everlast Facebook pages. I manage the Everlast YouTube account. So if you make a comment on there, I'm the one responding. So you send a message to Everlast on Facebook, that's me. You send an email to Everlast Tech Support, that's me. You can call Everlast Tech, extension 207. That's me or Mark Winchester. So plenty of ways to get a hold of me if you have a question. Even if you have a question about like, hey man, I'm not sure how to set this up or how to weld this, dude, I'm more than happy. You don't even have to have an Everlast. I'm more than happy to help you. I'm on a couple other company pages just because it's kind of fun to help people figure stuff out. I'm not going to mention names, but I'm on a couple other competitor pages just to kind of see, mainly for, seeing what issues pop up. But dude, I'll hop on there and I'll help people out that are having an issue with a project, or I see something they're doing wrong. Like I don't care. I'm mainly here just to make I want to make a difference in the industry. I think I have some opinions about some things. I'll keep close to the chest for now, but the main thing I just want to make the industry better for more people. I think there's a lot of improvements we can make for some of the organizations that oversee the welding industry. That could be another long conversation, but I don't know, man. I try to help as many people as I can. I've been there, struggling on something. I taught myself how to TIG weld, so I know what it's like. And man, I want to spread, I don't call it the joy of welding, but the passion I have for creating and the passion for this industry, I try to spread it around as much as I can, and I just want to see people learn how to do something right, so I don't have to fix some terrible fuck ups.
Fair enough. Well, fair enough.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for listening to everybody listening. Start your week off right with the Iron Insight every Monday at 4 a.m. I'm Bryn Welds at BrynWelds. If you want an Everlast machine, you can go to the link in the show notes and pick you up an Everlast machine. Any machine that comes with a stock TIG torch or foot pedal will be upgraded through that link with the Nova foot pedal and TIG torch worth $100 value. Edge welding cups, use the link in the show notes, and code BrynWelds15 for 15% off. And Mr. Andrew.
And my name is Andrew Nichols. I'm with Southern Leatherworks. Go to southernleatherworks.net for all your Leatherworks needs, custom welding hoods, and now belts, and many more products to come. Thank you for joining us, guys.
And
have a good one, guys. I appreciate it, guys.
And on Apple Music or Spotify, hit that 5-star and hit a review. Thank you.
Got to get everybody listening.